Memories, sweet, sweet memories. I was his little queen. He was my king. Good times and good old days and sweet, sweet memories.
My father met Elvis in February of 1956 when he was working as a disc jockey at KRLD radio station in Dallas. Elvis had come to the station to promote some of his records, and they made an acquaintance and visited for a few minutes. Daddy reacquainted himself with Elvis a few months later here in Waco, Texas in October of 1956 when Elvis played a concert at the Heart of Texas Coliseum. After the show, my dad was just so excited. He had seen Elvis's performance. He couldn't believe how great he was. And he went backstage to meet him. And he said, "Do you remember me? I'm the disc jockey that worked in Dallas, and you came up to promote your records." And lo and behold, Elvis had remembered him. And so they visited for a little while. My father was always very generous to strangers, and especially being impressed with Elvis. And he said, you know, to him just kind of off the cuff, "Come visit me sometime in my home. I'd love to have you. My wife would cook for you. We'd love to have you in our family. You know, just next time you're around, come to town. We'd like to show you around." And it was just a standing offer. And after that, in 1958, when Elvis became stationed at Killeen, Texas, just a few miles from Waco, when he was in the Army, he did just that. He would come visit our family on the weekends and just show up unexpectedly. He would never call first. He would just drop in. And it was always very exciting for us. He would bring his friends, his entourage, his girlfriend at the time, Anita Wood, and they would just pull up in several cars in front of our home and pile in the house. And my mother, who, you know, would be running around in her robe and her house shoes or whatever, would suddenly run, go back and put a dress on and start cooking. And it was always very exciting. It was a lot of fun. There was never a dull moment at that time. Also at that time, the word got out that Elvis Presley was staying at our home sometime, and so our phone number was unlisted after that so that people couldn't call us at all hours of the day asking if Elvis was there. And we would just look out the window at times and there would be teenagers standing across the street just staring at our house, or a big mob of teenagers would come up to our house demanding to see Elvis when they thought he was there. So we felt like we were on stage a lot of the time, and we also felt that we were there to protect Elvis and keep the elements away from him that made him so nervous at times, unless he wanted to go out and sign autographs, and then we would be right at his side. So it was a very exciting time in his early career. When Elvis would come visit and listen to the new records that my father had bought for him, he would sometimes fix on one record and he would play it over and over and over to almost to the point of just saying, "Please turn it off, we've had enough," you know. And one of the records that he liked at the time was called "Happy Birthday Baby." And he sat down at our piano one day, at my piano, rephrase that, and played that song. And he and Anita and my father sang it, and they just had a ball. Elvis loved that song, and he played it over and over with my dad and Anita providing harmonies, and he would change up the song a little bit to make it sound different, and he loved to do that. And Daddy was able to actually get him on tape singing that, which is great, and we got home movies of him playing our piano, sitting in our living room at our house in Lasker. And that was just great. I mean, there were people there having a good time. My brother and I were there as little children, and Elvis was just having a good time. He would, he loved to eat little sweet pickles, and he was eating some sweet pickles and at the same time kissing me on the cheek. And I'll just never forget that. It was really interesting, you know, the smell of the sweet pickles, Elvis, and these bright lights shining on my face as a little child. It was really funny. And so we got some of these things on tape, some of these really nice shots. We have pictures of Elvis, movies of Elvis sitting in the pink and black den that my father built for him. And in one of those shots, he's smoking a cigar. And that was another thing that my father always had for him in the room. Daddy had a little glass cigarette box that everybody used to in the 50s. I guess they kept them on their coffee tables and they would be full of cigarettes. Well, Daddy would put